we're back with, I don't know, maybe another hour's worth of comment response for Strange New World Season 2. And we're starting off with the Pap. I would watch an entire episode based on pike cooking. Yeah, this is from Strange New World Season 2, Episode 4. I forgot what to type here. It's the one where everybody forgets stuff among the Lotus Eaters. Yeah, I mean, why not, right? Like, maybe they go to some planet. Oh, this plant only grows here on this planet, and we need it for this whatever meal. And they go down there and they find some secret, I don't know, Romulan installation on this planet. And this shouldn't be here, and we gotta uncover this plot. And by the way, make sure we get that herb. You know, it could happen, right? You know, I feel like Strange New Worlds is just becoming like the bin where you dump the experimental ideas. Like, if we have Discovery Season 5, we have Picard, we have Lower Decks, like, Strange New Worlds just becomes that kind of thing where this didn't fit anywhere else, so we'll just put it in Strange New Worlds. I'm just having this kind of vibe in my head. I don't know if it's real, but it's just something I was thinking about. I actually make that pasta he made last season all the time now. Yeah, at the end of last season, I think the last episode, he made pasta mama, which I don't know why it's called that, but it's just pasta with eggs and like pepper, butter, and Parmesan cheese in it, and I love it. I started making it all the time. He turns leftovers into that, but I make the whole thing intentionally to be that way. It's really good. Star Trek improving lives to this day. Yep, well, I do make this. I've made this countless times since this dish that I got from that episode. Maybe in future we could have more really fast dishes that you can basically tell the viewer how to make it in like 2 or 3 lines, just to kind of run it out there that maybe I didn't see before. Maybe that'd be cool. This is absolutely not the Ortegas episode I was promised. So mad. It just had a very thin Ortega skin draped over it. Yeah, Ortegas, I pilot the ship. I control the ship. I'm Ortegas. It clearly just felt like Pike's adventure on the planet's surface. It didn't feel like what it was supposed to be. Everyone was like, when's Ortegas gonna get something to do? This ain't it, Chief. MichaelPapp again. This episode reminded me of Kirk and his iconic, to me, yeah, I don't want to lose my pain. I need my pain. I felt that statement intent was explored here. Yep, this episode was kind of about, like, getting back bad memories and how that's necessary, you know, for an opportunity to change and grow. And this episode really kind of keyed into that. It's not necessarily a new idea, but it was pretty well represented here. Again, an episode among the Lotus Eaters. Almost great. I think just a few changes could have been really good. I didn't notice that contradiction. I guess Spock can't read English, which is what the pad was displaying. He's Vulcan. He can read his native language, but not learn. Yeah, this is when Spock got that, what was it, afflicting the crew with this idea that made them forgetting things. The way it affected Spock, I think, probably upset a lot of people, because Spock forgot how to read English. And I remember thinking, like, really? Like, other people can read, but since it's not his native language. And then I was thinking, well, how many people on the ship really aren't native English speakers? Probably a lot. And then I was thinking, like, it's either worse than we think, or it's something just unique to Vulcans. It was displaying English, but, I mean, he's Vulcan. I wonder if, like, could you not press a button and it would just display it in Vulcan? Like, I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing. And it's just because Spock was on the bridge and he had to say something to Ortegas. It felt like a complete throwaway thing. Could have easily been some other kind of scenario. It was just weird. It's like it's not one way or the other. It's just one of those things that's weird that you think about. In this episode, I think it's a missed opportunity. I think at the beginning of the episode, they show Ortegas' quarters, and she has a model of the Enterprise. And then later on in the episode, we learn about a totem, which is a thing that helps you hold on to your memories. It's like a physical object, an heirloom, that helps you to remember things, it jogs your memory. And then later on, Ortegas doesn't grab the Enterprise model. Duh. Again, just a few little rewrites. Like, the Enterprise model is clearly her totem. Go back and watch the episode. It is clearly setting that up. You see the model at the beginning, and then she doesn't pick it up later. What was it, cut? Did they cut it for some reason? Did they just forget? Missed opportunity? Maybe it's even a mistake. That was it's so egregious. I whistle this in my mind when something happens to me. Like, that plays in TOS when you hear bum, 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 musical cue, that's how you know everything's okay. Like, and it's gone. They've like completely forgotten about it basically in modern Star Trek. Why? There's so many moments in Strange New Worlds where at the very end it should have just played and had our characters just kind of look at each other or start laughing or somebody cracks some joke. Dang it. I love it. I love it. So good. Since they got rid of the memory issue meteor, what a weird thing, memory issue meteor. Your complaint about that not being mentioned before is sort of moot. Yeah, isn't that weird? Like how the meteor, the presence of the meteor and its, and the results from that meteor being there, as in debris and whatnot, causes memory loss issues. So since they got rid of the memory issue meteor, your complaint about that not being mentioned before is sort of moot. Which is interesting. Like, anybody who saw it would forget about it. Right? And so how could someone have seen it, got away, remembered it, and told you about it? So I was wrong here. I guess I just didn't think about it hard enough. Because it seems to me like something like that amazing, everyone would know about it. But then again, how would you remember having seen it? You know what they should have did? They should have took a piece of it and had it in some kind of containment field that blocked its memory erasing effects, and then used it to flash people when they accidentally get spotted on underdeveloped planets. Whoops, you saw my ship. Here, check out this cool rock. That's awful. Don't do that. Oh, you thought this episode had a reverse Spock? Well, yeah, it has to do with logic and like losing logic and like, you know, losing your memory and then having to reconnect with emotion and going on faith of the heart, right? You know, this episode had a reverse Spock. Yeah, reverse Spock, like kind of like emotion Spock. It's occurred multiple times just in this season and also in a previous Trek. Like it's not that new of a thing, right? So maybe, you know, I'm a little out of line, just kind of, you know, on my high horse, thinking it's just kind of this episode specifically. Algorithm comment. We'll watch eventually. This is how you comment. That's how you comment. Algorithm reply. Yep, just, guys, don't even comment. Just give an algorithm comment, and then, hey, I'll watch it later. Algorithm comment. If that works. Is that a thing? Like, if you comment fast, does that like boost it or something? Is there something about that? I don't know. YouTube doesn't want you to know. And if you think about it hard enough, you realize maybe you shouldn't know. Because if YouTube actually outright said what it is that makes a video popular, everyone would just do it. and then no video will be popular. So it's like their black box, right? It's like, here's you, here's YouTube, and there's a black box between you, and that's the algorithm. And we can't let you see what's in it, because we need you in the striving to know what's in it. You create content that ends up being good that people watch. If you knew what was in the box, you would create the same video over and over again. Does that happen, you think? Do you think people make the same video, mining the same well over and over again, twice fleecing the same sheep with the same thumbnails? Maybe. Imagine how much worse it would be if we knew exactly how to break the algorithm. So we'll count our blessings, I guess. I appreciate objectivity. I myself saw Black Hawk Down. I don't know what that is. It's black. That's like a helicopter. So it must be some kind of like war movie or something. It was so not my scene. However, I acknowledged how well the movie itself was. Yeah, I try to do that too with things. Good acting, great action, solid suspense, decent enough story. I had no real reason not to like it, other than I'm bored by most of the military movies, unless it's in space or the future versus aliens. I try to look at things objectively. I try to see the good in everything. Some people will see something and immediately before they know what it is, they're trying to find the bad in it. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to find what's good in this episode, Charades. And it's far from the worst episode ever. And it's not like amazing. It's just like it gets some solid laughs. And sometimes it does it at the expense of, certain things. But, it's not a complete nightmare, right? So I try to say, okay, looks good. I have these objective standards, these pillars that I kind of base an episode on. You've noticed if you watch my reviews, and they're weighted differently. Like each one, like there's like theme, visuals, plot, and sound, right? And you need all of them. You need all of them in some degree. But some of them are weighted more highly than others. Like theme is weighted very highly, right? And then like visuals, sound, and then I don't really weigh plot that highly. Like a bad plot with a great theme, visuals, and sound is good for me. It's not that horrible. Like the plot of Star Trek: The Motion Picture is that we need to go find a thing. A thing is coming. We don't even know if we can stop it. We need to get everybody on the ship and we need to go see it. And I don't care. That didn't bother me at all. I'll watch that. And somebody will probably be saying like, oh, but the plot is really complicated. Well, really, the lore and the themes and the subtext are complicated. The plot is not that complicated. But you can have a really cool plot too. Like you can have an episode with a bad theme, but a compelling plot, like a point-to-point narrative that keeps you guessing and keeps surprising you. You can have that, and it's pretty good too. So I try to see all these different things with, Star Trek, and I think those pillars I just mentioned, Star Trek, when it's doing good, it tends to be winning on those fronts. Just trying to objectively measure things here. As best I can. Of course it's impossible to have a perfectly objective review. You cannot do it. Nobody can do it. If you think you can do it, you're wrong. There's no such thing, but you can try. You try, and then, you get somewhere. Just try. Trying is enough. Or, do what you want. Like, you can just create a totally subjective review for fun if you want to. It's fine. Yes, sub-impulse seems to be exactly that. Probably a way of saying 1/4 impulse or half impulse. They're the exact same analogy as I just did. I'll bet you heard it in Picard's voice too. Sub-impulse. I try not to get... This is like my fault. I get into the weeds about this stuff when there's no real reason to. Like, what is sub-impulse? Impulse is the the non-Einsteinian space drive of a Starfleet vessel usually. It uses like Newtonian physics to do either a brachistochrone trajectory or a Hohmann transfer orbit between celestial bodies, right? Because it's slower than light. It is non-relativistic in that way. It is Newtonian. It doesn't require bending space, as far as I know. Knock on wood. So when you say like sub impulse, you're saying like sub light. Like what is that? It's like getting in your car and saying, okay, how about you go sub let's go sub gas. What the hell? No, what do you mean? Drift? it's just kind of hairy, and this is a lot of this happened all the time. Stuff where it's some kind of propulsion thing isn't quite thought of, isn't quite stated in like a really objectively good way, like a scientifically sound way, in keeping with the science of Starfleet ships that we have previously established. Sub impulse seems to be exactly that. Probably a way of saying 1/4 or half. Yeah, so you could interpret sub as anything below 1 or full impulse, I guess. But there's a lot of gradations, or what you would call it, but between 0 and full. So sub, okay. Imagine if I was on the bridge. Sub impulse. Okay, 99.99% impulse. Okay, sir, click. There's sub impulse. 99.99%. Enjoy. Which I think is capped at 1/4. I believe full impulse is 1/4 c, or 1/4 the speed of light, or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's done like that intentionally to avoid relativistic effects of going too fast that you get around by manipulating gravity with the warp drive. Warp drive avoids the bad relativistic effects by manipulating the gravity around the ship to keep the local space around you flat, as a flat curve, so that you don't have to like come out on the other end having crossed through thousands of years, relatively speaking, unless you want to, like you're going back in time or something. Some one of those crazy things, like in Picard season 2 or the Voyage Home. MichaelPapp, we're still on the Pap attack here. We're still papping it up. I really had fun. It was great seeing Spock as a human teenager. His character is not too precious to be tampered with. I don't want TOS classic Spock in Strange New Worlds. This actually isn't classic Spock in Strange New Worlds, technically. I can just watch TOS classic Spock for that. His exploration of humanity is as logical as exploring volcanity. Okay, like that, volcanity. To fully ignore half of oneself is not. I can usually imagine a younger TOS Spock devoting some time to see how humans experience things, kind of like Data or something. We're as much his people as, technically people forget that he's just as much a human as a Vulcan, but we tend to see things from the alien side. Frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't really been explored before. What made Spock turn his back on his own humanity? Why does he ultimately decide a purely Vulcan lifestyle? And this comes to a head in the motion picture with Kolinar. Does he run away from an emotionally traumatic experience? Does he simply not find much satisfaction or gratification from being more human? These are interesting new questions brought to a 60-year-old character. Yes, probably in the next few seasons, if we get to that point. It's interesting that if you kind of buy into this idea that this is a different timeline, I guess he doesn't technically have to turn into TOS Spock. I guess that's just something we're erroneously expecting to happen because we think we know the future, but maybe we don't. What happens in 5 or so years to change a Vulcan that much? Vulcan, we just discussed how he's kind of not really just a Vulcan. It's interesting to think about. Are we getting more seasons? Or is this going to be like a 3-season show or 4-season? I don't know. Here's a question. I thought of this a few days ago, just kind of daydreaming. What if, like, Star Trek 4 has never happened? like that Kelvin timeline one. I don't think that's coming out. Here's a thought though. Would you? And this is everybody watching this right now. Would you say like sacrifice season 4, say, of Strange New Worlds, like the budget that was going to be for that, and then put in some more money to create a Strange New Worlds movie that actually is The Cage as a movie? Like spruced up a bit, and maybe a few more plot threads in there. Maintain the story beats of the original. You know, sprinkle in some action here and there. Bring in Dr. Boyce and that kid, the blonde guy, like Ches Diaz, whatever the heck his name was, I forget. I was thinking of this. I was thinking, you know, these characters, it's not like The Cage wasn't so long ago that our actors that we have now for Strange New Worlds can't pull it off. Like, you can't have a character play a younger version of themselves that was like 20 years ago. But it wasn't that long ago. You could conceivably take Pike, dye his hair a little bit, maybe. Change Spock's hair around a little bit. Change the uniforms around backwards to what they could have been a little bit. Bring in a few more things. Change a few technological things on the bridge. And you could conceivably have a movie budget Strange New Worlds movie. We'll call it Star Trek Talos 4. Maybe I think that's where The Cage took place, or just Star Trek Talos or something. Because if you call it Star Trek The Cage, it's just going to confuse Google results. I hate that, because they're not going to. Do you mean The Cage 1964 or 2020 whatever? What do you think about that? Could you have a Cage movie? This timeline's quote unquote version of The Cage. I think it could be cool. I think people might like that. I love Waxana. Me too. I wasn't upset when she was around. She brought so much fun and charm to her episodes, as well as heart. Do you remember when she was on Deep Space Nine, and I think her and Odo were stuck in the turbo lift? I think about that all the time. Like, it was just something about that episode that it just did something to me. Major was a treasure. We should treasure her performances. Even that one episode of Babylon 5. What's Babylon 5? I don't know. I know Deep Space Nine. That's another show with a number in it. Haha. I found someone else who likes Loxana, I guess. I like these characters. I don't know why. Facts. Absolute facts. I think the only time a shuttle landed safely was in the second episode of Lower Decks. Just getting stolen by a drunk Klingon count as a disaster. Pretty sure they could still use the thing by the end. Yes, I read this Star Trek magazine. I think they renamed it to Star Trek Explorer. But I'm always reading. I mostly focus on the behind the scenes interviews with people like Doug Drexler or Michael Okuda and people like that. And I got this from. I think this could have been when Doug Drexler first started working on Star Trek. Maybe I'm wrong, but he was talking to Michael Okuda, and these two names just came to mind because I think that's who was the subject of this this article in Star Trek magazine. I think Michael Okuda kind of quizzed him, and he said, "What's the point of a shuttle?" And I think Doug said, "To get you from the ship to the surface." And then I think Michael Okuda said, "Wrong. That's not the point of a shuttle. The point of a shuttle is to get lost. That's why we have them." Right? So sometimes you think how things work from when you're watching it, things work a certain way. But from the creator's perspective, actually it's a different way. It could even be the opposite. It's like, what's the point of a starship? And then the viewer, you would say, "Oh, to get from one star to another." And then the writer would say, "No. The point of a starship is to have a bunch of people close together so that they can talk to each other." right? See, it's kind of like that, right? It did happen last season, yes. I feel this episode is a spiritual sequel to Amok Spock for sure. Yeah, Amok Spock, that was the one where, and isn't it M-A-O-K? Not A-M-U-C-K? Amok, like, that's funnier, though. Where Spock switched his Katra with, to Pring, and then Mbenga fixed it with sea urchin paste. If only they had that in, The Search for Spock, right? It did happen last season, yes. This kind of episode, yeah, it's a spiritual sequel, we'll call it that. We'll say the favorable thing. We'll say the nice thing and call it a spiritual sequel, and not just a redress or the old episode put in the microwave. Hilarity did indeed ensue for me. Yeah, I had a few laughs too, and charades, if I'm honest with myself. Why would beings without flesh have a full understanding of mixed species genetics? How often do you think they come across a person like Spock or B'Elanna? I imagine with the ease with which you can create these multi-species mixtures, they're probably common. There's probably a lot of them. Probably a lot of aliens, quote unquote, are just multiple kind of different races and species kind of merged together. And I don't know if these beings have to have an understanding of genetics to get this to work. If they have an understanding of time, could they not have had we'll say quote unquote a photograph of Spock beforehand in their mind, and then just make it like that? Like, if you watch a video about cooking and you follow it exactly, you don't actually have to know how to cook, right? If you race cars, you don't have to know how the car works, right? So I was kind of thinking that, okay, Spock came to us, he looked like this, here's how his atoms were arranged, let's make him look like that again, kind of like a replicator, like putting a broken thing into a replicator and then specifying what it looked like before it was broken, and then just getting a fixed one back, in a manner of speaking. That was kind of what I was thinking. I think like they seem too advanced to have kind of like that problem, but there I go again, assuming, like, I don't know. Maybe they just said, I don't know, they just made a mistake. Maybe they were just stupid. Maybe they were just stupid. Sometimes aliens, I guess, are just dumb. Maybe they just did it wrong, and we're sorry, we'll fix it, we'll make it right. We're sorry. We made Spock different. I don't know. It could be anything, really. I don't think this hurts the episode. I don't think that ruins it. Vulcans have a genetic predisposition towards pain tolerance we humans don't have. True, yes, Vulcans are stronger physically, yes. It's not hard to believe a suddenly completely human biochemistry. Emotional control, he's not used to having a human body. Yeah, maybe. His half-human Vulcan one, brain doesn't make the chemicals needed to control his emotions. It's like getting a totally new operating system at work. Suddenly even the easiest things are impossible until you figure it out. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, I never thought of this. Like, maybe Spock's different body requires a different brain to operate it. But if his brain is now completely human, wouldn't it not have that problem? He would have the memories of being partly Vulcan. Is that the same as, like, if I cut my arm off, I can get phantom pain in my arm. But if I cut my arm off and then I become an alien, do I still have the phantom pain? Because I remember having the pain, but the chemical signals in my brain, the network of chemicals, is not the same. Is it worse or is it better? Like, what? If, okay, so Spock's brain is human. Spock's brain is human and therefore should be more apt to deal with having the human body, but his mind, his Vulcan memories, will be conflicting with it. Can you change your brain without losing your memories? Like, is this possible? Can you take my brain and make it a Vulcan brain and not have me lose memories? Is that a thing? Can that be done? I feel like I'm splitting hairs that are impossible to split here, because there's actually something hidden inside this episode that is just impossible. Like, can you really turn Spock into a human and then have him remember being a Vulcan? Both literally and like at the metaphysical level. Is that possible? What you're saying seems to make perfect sense, like the operating system thing, like just on the surface. I don't know. It's a weird episode. Why wouldn't the energy color people just fix the human back to human and Vulcan back to Vulcan? The directions wouldn't be mixed at that point. Yeah, I don't know. They call themselves like yellow and blue or something like that. It's kind of weird. It looked really cool where they went to. It looked really TOS. Like, it looked like they're just in a tinfoil sphere. It was kind of cool. Make the human human and make the Vulcan Vulcan. Imagine if they made... Who was with them at the time? Chapel? Imagine if they made Chapel into a Vulcan and that was the episode. You forget, in the TOS era, it's always better to ask. Yep. In TOS, you do or die, and we did it, and then we're just going to beg for forgiveness later. It's like every freaking episode. It's always better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Burnham sure does it. Yep, Kirk invented it. Well, we don't know who came exactly right before Kirk. We don't know for sure if Kirk invented it. These gals are living up to that cowboy diplomacy that I think we literally said at some other point in Star Trek. Ambassador Spock so reminisced over. Yes. Hey, let's just, I know this is a bad idea, but let's do it anyway. Let's just do it anyway and hope for the best. We're making the rules out here. We're forging forth. Who knows? Maybe someday they're going to invent some directive to help us figure out what to do here. And maybe they'll call it Prime. I don't know. But until then, we're going to have to make the rules as we go. You're right. These energy beings were weird customer service. Weird customer service people. You had to prove to be a close family member or dear friend to request medical changes to someone. And then it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get it done. It's not a badass. They wouldn't give Chapel the time of day until she proved her deep connection to Spock. He's my one! For those people who saw the end of Discovery Season 4. Look at it from their perspective. If some rando came up past the warranty date and wasn't even the patient, would you want them to talk about your medical history with just anyone? Then she presented a heretofore unheard concept in order to genetically alter someone they thought of as fixed. Yeah, come on, please make sure they're sincere and true to me before discussing my medical... Please make sure they're sincere and true to me, always, before discussing my medical history with them in any fashion. Yeah, dude, just show your card. Look, it says right here. That Spock guy, I love him a little bit. See my card? There's my face. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Can you, what if they didn't understand that you were just, what if they didn't understand that, Chapel was, kind of in love with Spock? They didn't know what that was? They'd be kind of frigged, wouldn't they? I'm in love with Spock. And then they'd be like, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. Oh, I get it now. MichaelPapp, the aliens don't want to be studied. They want to be left alone. As cool as it might be to try to open diplomatic relations with them, it's pointless when they don't even want to answer the phone. I keep calling. They don't answer the phone. By all means, they keep calling periodically to see if they change their minds. Yeah. In this season, we do, I think, like, twice in rapid succession, we met difficult to understand alien beings, and we just kind of moved on. Which is par for the course for Star Trek, but it's like, wow, dude, more unknowable alien beings. Put that one up on the chalkboard. Are we gonna go back? We should go back. Don't leave us alone. Hey, you're not answering my messages. I keep texting you. Yeah. I believe the father's name was Sidormat, as in walked on, which is what you do to a doormat. That would be T'Pring's father in the episode Charades, if I'm getting that right. Which I thought these characters were very funny. T'Pring's mom and dad. I thought it was relatable. It just really, there was something very human about it, even though they weren't. I think, what was his name? Savat? Something like that. It was so funny. The whole thing, it was just, I made a short out of it when Pike is bringing over the Tevmel, and he walks out, and then he just sees them there, and he just completely turns into a different character and walks away. This show shows Vulcans are people too. They're not a monolith, just like Enterprise, and people hated it back then too. People hated Enterprise at the beginning because why are the Vulcans so mean all the time? And then they kind of showed how eventually they change around and people change in hundreds of years. Wow. Vulcans are people too, yeah, and sometimes they're stupid. Like those people from Vulcan Science Camp that Sheffield wants to go to so she can get involved in canon things with Dr. Corby. Yeah, they are people too. They're not a monolith. The mom may as well be named Karen. Uh-oh. Womp womp. She probably thinks Sarek's family went easy on her or something. Sadly, some Vulcans are pretty racist, unintentionally or not. Is it racist if it's like different planets? Isn't it like am I wrong, or would it be like speciesist or something? Right? Yeah, they're annoying, but I'm not gonna lie and say it wasn't fun. With those characters in that episode Charade, I'm not gonna lie and say I wasn't having a good time. Spock's outburst has no character. He defended his mother as lovingly as he did in the 07 movie. Wasn't it 2009? And then they say like, oh, on account of your disadvantage. And then they say, oh, what disadvantage would that be? Your human mother. Isn't that what the line was in that movie? I can't believe I can just remember that. I thought it was 2009. Maybe it was 2007. I don't know. Well, when she was, again, referred to as a disadvantage as a refusal to join the Science Academy, also occurred in the prime timeline. So yeah, it is kind of like it's like a convergence between the two. It's one of the reasons why Sarek was so mad at his son for joining Starfleet. Womp womp. In DSC, or Discovery, we learned Sarek was forced to choose which of his children would be accepted into the VSA. He chose his natural-born son, which caused severe hurt to his daughter. I can imagine Spock had the gallbladder to decline the offer. Out of human pettiness? Nah. Sarek ain't having that. I didn't mind Sarek's actor for Discovery. I thought he was alright. He's not Mark Leonard, but, it wasn't the worst thing ever. We haven't seen him in forever. We know he lives for a long time after this, but, are we still in that kind of like time frame. Lots of charades comments here. Look at this. Like, wait a minute. Wait now. Are you the only person that commented on charades? What's going on here? I think this entire video so far was MichaelPapp. Has this happened before? Am I taking crazy pills? Oh my god. Okay. Again, for charades, we need to have the character start at a different point than ending in the story. Yeah, true. T.O. Spock will hopefully never be in Stranger Worlds. Yeah, I was wrong. When I reviewed this episode, I gone off in this tangent about how this is like not TOS Spock, and then I kind of came around to this idea that okay, it doesn't have to be TOS Spock if he turns into TOS Spock, and then I came around to this idea that okay, what if that's just not going to occur in this timeline, and I'm expecting a future that isn't real. I'm kind of getting to that point now where I'm kind of coming around on this one. You're making the same mistake. It's hard not to say Boimler. Boimler does by judging Spock based on how he will be in his timeline, while ignoring who he is right now. He is a character that is growing, developing as Spock. We know 10 years from now. 10 years, yeah, and I also brought up the point 10 years is a long time to change a person, but is that from a human standard? I don't know, really. Like, if Vulcans are super long-lived, maybe 10 years is like a week. Not a week. What am I talking about? Like 10 years is like kind of like a few years. I'm honestly surprised by how surprised you are. Spock's not who we know. Yes, I was wrong. This is a prequel. That's a problem. We shouldn't have prequels, should we? Huh? A dramatic analogy is expecting Vader. Who's Vader? Is he in Starfleet? To act like he did in the prequels when you already know how he behaved in the original trilogy. I think visually, the image of Spock, we ignore the power of cultural imagery we have of this character of Spock. We can take this character that we know you're invested in. We can go back, prequelize it, make it different, and then say that, oh, he's not the Spock you want yet. Like, is that, you have to ask yourself, is that just like a cop-out to help us deal with the fact that we just kind of like, pilfered this popular thing out of pop culture and then used it again? That's the extremely cynical take. But the not so cynical take would be, of course, somebody wouldn't be who they were in the future. And then somebody would just clap back and say, well, how do you know it's even in the same timeline? So I don't know what... I was wrong in the original review, but I don't know how wrong or what, but conversely would be correct, because I don't know, like, are we even going to get TOS Spock? Is that something that anyone should be worried about? I don't know. It's like, I think just dropping this is a prequel, I think that's more loaded than you think it is. What it means for something to be a prequel. Like, why we do it. What are we doing when we make prequels, right? And I've had different daydreams about prequel stuff for Star Trek before, too. That doesn't mean we should do it. Or does it? It's all up to you, I guess. This Vulcan seemed to look down on Freudian slip. I just called her Pretty Chapel. This Vulcan seemed to look down on Chapel pretty hard. My guess is she's got so many preconceived notions of how much better he is than the human girl at science. I'm better than you at science. I hate that guy. I hate this Vulcan guy from Vulcan Science Camp. Dang it. Damn, but I love Mount's comedic timing. Almost as good as Grandpa. Yeah, I sometimes I just see things in my mind that reflect something from something else and have to put them together. I saw Pike just transform from regular Pike into like on the spot anxiety Pike in a split second. And it reminded me so much of how Abe Simpson walked in to see his son working at that um, uh, the adult facility, and then he went from regular grandpa to anxiety on the spot grandpa, and then left. Mount's face does so much acting. Yeah, Mount's face is like rubber. It's like really moving around a lot. I wonder, is that something he naturally wants to bring to it, or is that something on the set directors are like saying like, do this, like look crazier? Curious about that. Like, I never watched Anson Mount and anything else, so I don't know. Insofar as I'm aware that this is when I was just talking about Strange New Worlds, how they bumped up an episode forward, and I was like, hey, does that mean we're not getting the next one next week? And then you said no, that they're moving it forward, so we're doubling it up. That was a lot of work for me that week. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. What the? Oh my god, Michael. It's just you. It's just you and me. What in the world? What am I going to call this video? Insofar as I'm aware, that just means Strange New Worlds. Okay, we already did that. And now we're up to 6. I See Dead People, Lost in Translation. All the emotional plot points travel from episode to episode, even in the story plots didn't. We don't have a sequential narrative arc for the characters. That's why we have the previously on thing. I was kind of wrong here. I remember opening this review by saying I couldn't imagine trying to understand the plot point to plot point basis of this previously on section. And then I was like, after I thought about it, I remembered that characters actually have emotional arcs too. So there's a plot arc that you need for a serialized show, but for an episodic show like this, that previously on section is actually for emotional arcs. And I didn't get that because I'm a soulless automaton. So I didn't understand the characters go on emotional arcs. Just because I don't in real life. But yeah, I didn't really understand that. And then I understood it immediately after you posted this comment and then thought about it for a while. We got Pike meeting Kirk after getting promoted to fleet captain. I know they do mention it later, establishing the menagerie. Will we never see Kirk in charge of the Enterprise? No, I'm sure there'll be an episode sometime down the line with Kirk command and Spock as his first officer, just for that episode though. This is Pike's show. You can take a backseat once in a while, but he's a captain. You never know what they're gonna pull. Maybe tomorrow they'll say, guess what, season 3, that's gonna be Kirk's show. Ha ha. Ha ha. Bit of a rug pull for you. No, you're probably right, but never once occurred to me this was filmed almost back to back with season 1. It's not like Anson Mount's been locked in for the past 3 years. They filmed 2 seasons 2 years ago, and he's been riding high in the publicity. It's just a thought experiment. I think this is when I was talking about what if they're subtly trying to prime us for the idea that Kirk replaces Pike sooner than we thought, because we're bringing so much Kirk into it. It was just a thought experiment. I didn't really think there was any kind of reality to it. Watch me be proven wrong. Watch tomorrow they announced that Anson Mount is fired because of allegations that he stole something off the set and then tried to swallow it and choked on it, and they took him in an ambulance and the ambulance went off a cliff. Oh, this is when we finally get to see the Bassard Collector doing what it's supposed to do. Finally, it took so long to kind of really see it. These guys right here. What does it do? What does it do? Well, it's supposed to absorb interstellar masses like hydrogen and helium and things like that. Particulate matter that exists kind of in the interstices of space. Space is actually not empty. It's full of all kinds of little particles. And we finally get to see them doing what they're supposed to do. They open up and they collect stellar material, and we're finally seeing it. Thank you so much. Another thank you moment. Like, I should write a thank you card for all the different things that I think New Trek has finally given us that we needed. I want a thank you card for showing the Bessard Collector doing that. A thank you card for Picard Season 3 showing the U.S.S. New Jersey. You know, things like that. There's equal amounts of potential for coffee or life in every nebula. There's coffee in that nebula. We need to go in there. We need to drink it all up. Said, Catherine Janeway. She likes that coffee, so there could be some in that next nebula. You don't know. There's equal potential for life in any nebula. Can be truly said. If I'm Starfleet, the idea of so much unknown to explore would entice and terrify me in a good way. I was talking about how these people go day to day, meeting the extreme unknown, and then sleep okay at night. But see, that's why you get to wear command colors. If you wear operation style colors like engineering outfits, you don't think like that. You get really scared by stuff. When anything's an unknown, it makes you sweat. Our job is to take the unknown and make it manageable and predictable. Right? We want things to work every time. When we press that button, I don't want any unknowns. I want it to be a known. That's why there's room for all kinds of people in Starfleet, especially people who like to make unknown things manageable, like engineers. We got not nearly enough of our favorite Einar engineer. I'm really anal about getting that Einar. More hammers demanded. We can't get any more. He's dead. He's dead. He blindly walked off a cliff on Ice Planet and froze to death, even though he's an Andorian or an Einar. God dang it. Why is he gone? Why is Einar gone? Why is Hemmer gone? But why is Rum gone? Why is Hemmer gone? Dang it. Stop bringing in characters for one season and killing them. Stop doing it to Shaw. Stop getting rid of Ash Tyler in Discovery the second I started liking him. Digging up old wounds, picking at old wounds, picking off old scabs. It's great. Repeated positive reinforcement, Federation, you compliment, support one another. Respectable people are telling you you're excellent. You're going to start to believe them. Trick is not, you're going to start to believe them. Fake it till you make it, brother. The trick is not to get cocky about it. I would say Uhura is in a little danger of that, being complimentary towards staff, and their performance is an important step in maintaining moral and productivity. Yeah, it's called the shit sandwich. What you do is you get a nice, yummy piece of bread, and then the shit in the middle, and then you end it with another nice, yummy piece of bread. So I'm going to say, hey, you're doing great today. I really love you. Nice butt, by the way. You've done a really bad job on this TPS report, and I threw it in the garbage. You're terrible, and I'm going to fire you. But hey, nice hair. Right? See the shit sandwich? That's how you do it. Believe me. Yeah, just do that. You'll be good. What was bad in Tapestry about the blue uniform wasn't science. It was his junior rank and chance of promotion. Hey, now. If he'd been lead archaeologist on Science Vessel as a commander on the rise. You're right. It might have been a different story. He was low-ranking officer and had no potential. Oh, no. No. Low-ranking officer had no potential and made no impact. That was what bothered him. He could have been in any color uniform. Maybe I took it wrongly. I kind of looked at it like, what was wrong with science? Why are you denigrating science? Even though I wouldn't be caught dead in a blue uniform. It was the rank and the fact that he was a dummy with no potential who belonged in a garbage can. That's what bothered him. He could have been in any color uniform. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe if you go back and watch Tapestry, it's a little bit more detailed than my memory serves. Oh, Picard's in blue? You look stupid in blue. You're not going anywhere. You should quit. Oh, what could have been? Yeah. It's how siblings do for sure. Yeah, this is when, this season started to save Sam Kirk for me. Sam Kirk was around for a season just as the butt of a joke. I didn't like him in season 1, but I love him in season 2. He plays so well with Kirk, which means means he plays badly, which is funny. Kirk's got a few more years to become the youngest captain. How long does he serve as the Farragut's XO? Has that been established in the media yet? Well, yeah, probably in like expanded universe stuff. It's probably in one of these books. I got just rafters of books. I like how we see, even for his secondary character, he's progression and development. I'm liking this Kirk. He's not that bad. He's alright. It's just, call me fickle, shit on me, whatever. There's just visually, he just doesn't read visually as Kirk. He's too thin or something, or he's not scary enough. I don't know what it is. He just kind of, his acting is on point generally. He has a good vibe. He's got like an atmosphere about him. You know, he's got a can-do attitude. He's just a little, I don't know, it's something. Gain 50 pounds and give him some platform shoes, you know. Kirk's got a few more years to become the youngest captain. Yeah, for all my life I thought the Farragut was a Constitution class, but I guess it's not. In this timeline. In this rhyme line, since we introduced that musical episode. This is the rhyme line. We had Prime timeline, Kelvin timeline, rhyme line. I like how we see, even for his secondary character, he's progression development. Yep, I know what you mean. Pike trusts his crew. He didn't confine Uhura, and he listened to her because she's proving worthy of that trust over and over again. I had no issues. I don't know. Ensign Uhura. You're just an ensign. Why don't you stay in your quarters where you belong? Of course I don't really mean that. But, extreme circumstances call for extreme measures. And she did end up going into that room and getting into a fight with that guy, and Kirk let her go, and we almost had like I think we did. Did we evacuate someone into space there accidentally? Is my memory failing me? Yeah, so Pike trusts Uhura, but do we trust Uhura? Well, I don't know. Maybe no more fisticuffs and evacuations into space, Uhura, for a week. That's it. No more dinner for you. You're going to bed without dinner. I like the shout out to the U.S.S. Kelvin. I like the U.S.S. Kelvin. So shoot me. I don't know. I think it's a cool ship. I like single nacelle ships. I don't know why, but I kind of like them. I also like the spherical hull ships. I always wanted to have a spherical hull ship with a single nacelle, but I haven't really found a way to make it not look completely insane. Maybe if I find a way someday. Yeah, the Kelvin, I mean, there's no reason to assume the Kelvin wouldn't exist in this timeline. I wonder, is it still the same class? Una's a person. No, she ain't. What are you talking about? She's allowed to be a bit petty for a bit over having her dead friend replaced, as long as the behavior isn't shown as acceptable, which it wasn't. Pelia talked to Una like a nana, being patient with a chid. I love it. She's so unemotionally patronizing, but yeah, I love Pelia all the time. It's just that we didn't get the Pelia episode. We didn't get the Pelia win. Pelia didn't touch the ball last before it went into the goal at any point. But wise and right about lots of things. I think Una's behavior was to show Hemmer touched more lives than just Uhura's. Yeah, Hemmer really touched their lives with a hammer, didn't he? It's heartwarming to know even the cool pro number 1 cared so much about the chief engineer. She resents the new one irrationally. Yeah. I was upset by it, but you're not wrong. Like, Una is a person. She's allowed to have these feelings, but she's also number 1. And it would have been cool to see Hemmer around more so we can kind of get these kind of feelings for ourselves and not just kind of inherit them secondhand from Una. You know, would have been cool. if we had him around for another 6 seasons. Sorry to Pelia, but he was here first. And then finally, from Undertaker. Undertaker is sneaking into this video. What do you know? So Kirk and Sans' father is alive, and this isn't Kelvin Timeline either. No, it's not Kelvin Timeline. I don't think it ever was. Really. Kirk met Khan's granddaughter, but then also forgets. Yeah, I don't love that Khan. There's a Khan character in Strange New Worlds already. Small world, small new worlds. Kirk met Khan's granddaughter. It's a point of contention I have with a lot of reviews, and I imagine people would have this point of contention with me. That I often complain about things being too self-referential, and how it kind of it insmallens the world. Like, oh, what do you know? Picard's son's on this ship? Cool. Like, it just makes things feel small. Star Trek is grand, enormous, and huge. Like, I think by the time we see, say, the Enterprise H, we're not going to know anybody. We shouldn't recognize anybody, any relation to anyone we've known. And most people should just be some kind of alien. You know, quote unquote alien. You know what I mean? Like, but then it gets recursive, and it's like, oh, these old characters are back? Oh, remember Khan? Well, here's his granddaughter on the Enterprise of Strange New Worlds. Wink, wink. Not really my game. Am I wrong? Does that even matter? Maybe it only matters if I'm kind of in the old timeline idea. You know what they say about old dogs? It's hard to teach them a new trick. And we're wrapping up on an hour here, so I'm going to hit the road, Jack, and make sure you come back here some more. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'll see you next time.